Hello there, how are you? This is week 6 of Art Appreciation Online, ART 1100, Fall 2019. I'm Brian Hitzelberger, I'm your professor for this course, and this week is our Around the World week. So the readings and PowerPoints for this particular unit of week 6 took us out of Western cultures. We looked at arts from different cultures around the world, including the arts of Asia, the Islamic world, the arts of Africa, Oceania, and the Americas. Um, just because of the nature of this course, unfortunately, each one of these chapters really could be its own course. And there's a lot of information to be learned and really interesting work to be studied coming out of each one of these cultures and each one of these historical time periods. The text does a good job of kind of taking us through a very brief and cursory view of these time periods, but we don't really get the opportunity to go in depth, which is a shame, because this is a general education class. The general education program at Piedmont College is designed to create a well-rounded educational experience for every graduate of Piedmont College. And part of that experience involves getting outside of our own culture and looking at the cultures of others. This is really the moment in this class where we're actually doing that in the most profound way. Indeed, we are looking way back at history and kind of looking at how we got here as a people, but this is the only moment in this class where we're looking at artworks of other cultures that we exist alongside of today. So I wish we could spend more time on this, but we've got to make do with what we've got. So this week's discussion becomes especially important. I want you to consider this idea of foreign cultures, just the idea of the foreign. When we're reading about this artwork, when we're reading about these people, it seems on the surface as if the circumstances of their lives and their aesthetics, their art, their practices, their customs are very, very different than anything that we're used to. But I want you to actually think deeply about your reading and your engagement with the material this week and ask yourself, what were the moments when actually something seemed familiar to you? Was there a moment when you were learning about a work of art from another culture that you actually said to yourself, oh, well, that actually kind of reminds me of something that I have in my own life or in my own culture or in my own history, etc. That's a moment where you're actually finding something familiar in a foreign culture. That's an important moment because that is a kind of connection that you have with somebody very different from you. And that's really why we study and why we read about other people, is to create linkages between ourselves and others. So I want you to actually talk about this week for your discussion. I want you to go back to the text and look at any works of art that, of course, will be foreign and different to you from this week's chapters. But upon closer examination or upon closer scrutiny, you actually find that there is something familiar about them. It could be a work of architecture, it could be a piece of jewelry, it could be a sacred space. Talk about how this work is similar to your own life, and talk about how it's different. Okay? This is a tricky discussion. You may have noticed that the discussions are actually getting harder. Because you really are going to have to step outside of your comfort zone, step outside of what's familiar, and try and see what's familiar in something that's new, in something that's foreign. Okay? Schedule is the same. Videos are going to be due on Thursday, and then responses are due on Saturday. As always, try and keep your videos to 4 minutes, and do take some notes before you begin your video. Don't just turn on the camera and start rambling. Take some time to really gather your thoughts so that you can make a cogent argument. Okay? I look forward to seeing your videos, and I will see you next week.